Hi-Fi Rush wasn't supposed to be a eulogy. January 25th, 2023, Tango Gameworks shadow drops this brilliant rhythm action game. No warning, no marketing, just pure joy landing on your Xbox. Within hours, social media explodes. Players are posting videos of themselves dancing to the beat. Critics are calling it a masterpiece. Xbox's own marketing VP tweets out that it's a breakout hit. 16 months later, Microsoft shuts down the studio. Tango Gameworks is dead. Brilliant teams scattered to the wind. The desks where award-winning games were born were now left empty. Potential sequels that fans were eagerly awaiting, they'll never exist. This is what a crime scene looks like in gaming. And Hi-Fi Rush isn't alone. Volition, the Saints Row people, gone after 30 years. Arcane Austin, who made Prey, one of the smartest games ever created, closed. Mimimi Games delivered Shadow Tactics to 3 million happy players, then vanished. Japan Studio, decades of PlayStation classics, dead, buried, forgotten. Here's what makes this a crime scene and not just a series of tragedies. These weren't failures. These were successful studios making games people actually wanted to play. Games that won awards, games that found their audience, games that did everything right. So why are they all gone? My name is Moriarty. My YouTube channel is really cool, and the answer is a single number that's been hiding in plain sight. By the end of this video, you'll understand why beloved studios keep closing despite making good games, why your games now cost $80, and why we might be watching gaming's creative golden age die in real time. A quick legal disclaimer. The views, opinions, and statements expressed in this content are solely those of the creator and do not represent the views, opinions, or positions of Xsolla USA Incorporated and its affiliates. In this regard, Xsolla USA Incorporated and its affiliates have not verified or endorsed the veracity of any claims made herein and expressly disclaim any and all liability arising from or relating to such content. Let's follow the money. Your money. You just bought a new AAA game on PlayStation 5. $70 leaves your account. The download starts. But where does your money actually go? First stop, Sony. 30% vanishes instantly. Gone. Not to the developers who spent 6 years crafting this world, not to the artists who hand animated every character, to Sony for hosting a download. Your remaining $49 still not going to the creators. Publishers take their cut next. Marketing, distribution, corporate overhead. After they grab their slice, developers see maybe $17. $17 out of your 70 for 6 years of work. But here's what makes this system genuinely insane. That cut of up to 30% isn't based strictly on costs. We know this because every single platform charges exorbitant amounts as fees. PlayStation 30%, Xbox 30%, Nintendo 30%, Steam up to 30%, Apple up to 30%, Google up to 30%. Think about that for a second. These are completely different companies with wildly different capabilities. PlayStation only added user reviews on the PS5 last year. Nintendo's eShop didn't have a shopping cart until 2022. Imagine Amazon without a cart for 15 years. Meanwhile, Steam offers forums, mod support, cloud saves, achievements, streaming, the works. All for similar high fees. Different companies offering different services, different costs, all charging up to 30%. Companies coordinating to charge nearly the same rates regardless of their actual costs might inspire regulatory investigations, but for whatever reason, have not as of yet. Dr. Serkan Toto, a Tokyo-based gaming industry consultant who advises major publishers on the Asian market, puts it bluntly.
These kind of like platform taxes affect every developer. So there is basically no mercy for you if you're just like a one-man shop and put a game on the App Store. Everything is affected. Every developer is affected. And every kind of like transaction that involves money is getting taxed by the platform providers. Of course, unless you provide your game, on your own platform and, where you control distribution and payment by yourself. But these are just like very, very few exceptions. There are some big exceptions to that, like Riot. that has its own kind of like a solution for payments and for distribution, etc., etc. But usually everybody has to pay the tax, and there's no mercy.
But surely 30% reflects real costs, right? Servers, payment processing, security, that stuff isn't free. Let's check. PayPal processes actual money transfers, banking regulations, fraud protection, chargebacks, international compliance, real financial oversight, all the serious legal stuff. Their cut? Approximately 3%. Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Square all charge about the same. Major gaming platforms host a file and charge up to 10 times more. We'll go into the Epic versus Apple case in more detail soon, but during Apple's own legal defense, they commissioned a study to justify their rates. The conclusion? PayPal handles infinitely more financial complexity for 3%, while Apple hosts downloads for up to 30%. The study accidentally proved something else. Epic Games runs their store at 12% and generates billions in profit. Steam's internal documents leaked during the Epic lawsuit showed they could be, quote, highly profitable at 8%. So what's the other 22% paying for? These platforms don't just charge 30% because they can, they charge it because you let them do it. Every time you buy a game on Steam because that's where your friends are, you're strengthening Steam's monopoly over developers. Every time you stick with PlayStation because of your trophy collection, you're giving Sony more power to charge exorbitant fees to developers. You're not the customer, you're the product. Platforms are farming you, selling your loyalty as leverage to win over game devs. Think about how platform competition actually works. Sony and Microsoft spend billions trying to win your loyalty with exclusive games and fancy hardware. But when it comes to charging developers, they charge up to 30%. This creates what economists call network effects, but let's skip the jargon. The more players on a platform, the more attractive it becomes to developers. The more developers on a platform, the more attractive it becomes to players. Everyone gets locked in. The platforms figured out something diabolical. If you control the only path between creators and their audience, you can charge whatever you want. Not because you provide equivalent value, not because your costs justify it, but because for developers, the alternative to paying your fee is not existing at all. Discord learned this the hard way. In 2018, they launched a game store with a 10% cut. We think there's a better way, they announced. Better prices for developers, better deals for players. 9 months later, they quietly shut it down. Almost no sales. Players didn't want another launcher. They wanted their games where their friends were, where their libraries lived, where their achievements existed. And even though Discord is arguably the largest social platform for gamers, that alone wasn't enough to overcome Steam's entrenchment. Almost everyone who has Discord already had a game platform they were invested in. Players will choose convenience over supporting developers every single time. Want proof 30% isn't about costs? During the Epic vs. Apple trial, we got to see inside this machine. Phil Schiller, Apple executive under oath. What's the App Store's profit margin? His answer, 78%. 78% profit. Not revenue, pure profit after all costs. When Epic's lawyer asked Tim Cook why Apple charges 30%, he could have talked about security, innovation, infrastructure. Instead, he said, it's been that way since the beginning. That's the entire justification. We've always done it, so we always will. In 2003, when Valve launched Steam, they picked 30% somewhat arbitrarily. Maybe it made sense then. Bandwidth was expensive, digital distribution was revolutionary. The infrastructure was genuinely costly. But that was 22 years ago. Storage costs have dropped 99%. Payment processing fees have fallen by 2/3. Everything about digital distribution has gotten dramatically cheaper. Everything except the fee on creativity. 30% isn't some natural law of digital commerce. It was literally a random number that has been circulating in the gaming industry since the PC gaming explosion. Internal emails revealed Apple executives scrambling to create talking points about why 30% is justified. Not explaining actual costs, not defending real value, just spinning stories to justify extraction. The documents showed Netflix pays 0% commission to Apple. Amazon negotiated special rates. The, quote, standard rate only crushes developers too small to negotiate alternatives. This isn't a market. It's a toll booth on the only road to town. And 30% is the price of not disappearing. Now you know how the machine works. Let's see what it destroys. 2004. World of Warcraft launches with a radical proposition. Pay $15 a month, get access to everything. No hidden fees, no gambling mechanics, no psychological manipulation, just a subscription to a virtual world. And they built the most profitable game in history. And for a brief, shining moment, the economics worked. Payers played directly for quality content. Developers kept most of the money. Everyone was happy. 2007, Steve Jobs stands on stage and promises us the future of gaming. Real games, premium experiences, in your pocket. We're going to use a revolutionary user interface.
We're going to use the best pointing device in the world. We're going to use a pointing device that we're all born with. We're born with 10 of them. We're going to use our fingers.
For the first 2 years, it looked like he was right. Premium games flourished. Parents bought quality educational titles for their kids. Developers charged fair prices for complete experiences. Rolando turned your phone into a living dollhouse. Flight control made air traffic management addictive. Early tower defense games like Field Runners proved touch controls could create entirely new genres. These weren't mobile games. They were games that happened to be on mobile, complete experiences you bought once and owned forever. But the fee of up to 30% created a race to the bottom. By 2012, premium mobile gaming was dying. Monument Valley in 2014 was beautiful, but also one of the last gasps of the premium model that should have been the standard. You're a developer, you pour your heart into a $10 premium game. Apple takes up to $3 immediately. After development costs, marketing, and survival, you keep maybe up to $2 per sale. Apple made more than you for essentially nothing.
Yes, so the platforms for the longest time, they've been saying, well, look, we give you discovery, right? We give you a collected setting. We give you the users, right? So, and we take away a lot of the hassle for you. So refunds, we do that for you. Paying the credit card providers, we do that for you, right? Collecting, we do that for you. And then, after a while, depends on the platform, it's usually like 30 days, something like that. We pay you the money that we are owing you. But we take basically that kind of like heavy lifting on the payment and on the distribution side away from you. But that has changed over time, because now if you look at the distribution platforms like the App Store or Google Play, there's hundreds of thousands of free-to-play mobile games there, right? So how can you stand out as an app developer, right? Is Apple and Google really giving you that kind of like visibility, that discoverability that they gave you in 2010? Most probably not, right? Unless you have like a personal relationship with Apple and Google, with the App Store managers or with the Google Play managers over there. But if you don't have that kind of a pull, that kind of relationship or any other way to make the App Store really actively promote your game, then good luck. Your game, if you just put it on the App Store without promotion, your app is going to drown. More and more people are saying on the developer side, you have to say, we give you 30% platform tax, but for what exactly?
To break even, you need hundreds of thousands of sales on a platform where Angry Birds costs 99 cents. The math was brutal and inevitable. Monument Valley, masterpiece, barely profitable. Super Hexagon, perfection. Developer went nearly broke trying to make art. Every premium mobile game that failed taught the same devastating lesson. You can't beat the 30% fee by selling quality. So developers found another way. Make it free. Remove all barriers. Get millions of downloads instead of thousands. Then figure out how to extract money from the tiny percentage of players who will pay anything. Whale hunting in an ocean of fish. But here's the devil in the details. Apple still took up to 30% of every gem, every battle pass, every loot box, every single transaction. If you lose up to 30% of every transaction, you need players to spend up to 43% more to hit the same revenue target. How do you make someone spend up to 43% more on a game they're already playing for free? Research reveals the mathematics behind modern mobile gaming. 98% of players never pay. Of the 2% who do, most spend once and quit. Your entire business depends on the 0.1%, the whales, who will spend thousands. To hook whales, despite losing 30% to Apple, developers needed gambling, time gates, pay to win, psychological triggers perfected in casinos, deployed on phones, targeted at anyone with a credit card. Even Nintendo couldn't resist. Super Mario Run launched in 2016 as a premium game, full experience, one price, no manipulation. Nintendo's own financial reports showed it generated 200 million downloads, but, quote, not acceptable profits. Their next mobile game? Fire Emblem Heroes. Full gacha mechanics. Gambling designed to extract maximum value from minimum players. The 30% fee didn't just change how games were sold, it changed what games are. The mobile way of doing business didn't stay on one platform. Once proven successful, it naturally moved to others. 2007, Call of Duty 4 launches with a simple proposition. Buy the game, play the game, that's it. 2024, Call of Duty is a live service platform with battle passes, seasonal content, weapon blueprints, operator skins, and psychological retention mechanics designed to keep you playing and paying forever. What changed? Well, the 30% fee made selling complete games financially impossible. Every modern AAA game is designed around retention because selling you a complete game for $60 leaves developers with maybe $17 after platform cuts and publisher takes. The developer eats the smallest piece of the pie. But selling you a free game and extracting hundreds through microtransactions, that math works. Barely. Here's what we lost: the middle class of gaming. The AA studios, big enough to polish, small enough to innovate, they're extinct. Monument Valley represented that middle ground. Beautiful, innovative, reasonably priced, made by a small team with big ideas. The 30% fee made that model extinct. No one can hand over nearly a third of every dollar they make in App Store fees, before paying state and federal taxes, before paying salaries, before even starting to recoup an investment. Unless they make games that go ultra viral and sell to millions of people, or get bought out by one of the platforms, Sony, Microsoft. Then you don't pay those fees and suddenly you're profitable, or at least you might think. What's left? Mega publishers who can afford to lose money on customer acquisition, knowing they'll extract it back through aggressive monetization. And tiny indies praying to go viral with free games, hoping enough players will buy cosmetics to cover the platform fee. Today's AAA games aren't always designed around fun. Sometimes they're just designed around retention. Aggression mechanic exists to keep you playing long enough to buy something. That's not game design, that's behavioral engineering. The transformation wasn't gradual, it was systematic. Every developer faced the same impossible choice: adapt or die. Most chose to adapt, some chose to die. By 2021, mobile gaming was generating more revenue than PC and console combined, built on habit-forming gameplay loops and optimized for extraction. The platform holders had proven something terrifying. If you control the distribution, you can reshape entire art forms to serve your business model. Mobile gaming wasn't the future of games, it was the canary in the coal mine. The body count was mounting. Every premium mobile game that failed, every AA studio that couldn't adapt, every creative vision compromised by the mathematics of extraction. But some developers refused to accept this fate. They started fighting back. And that's when things got interesting. August 13th, 2020, Epic Games lit the fuse. For months, Epic had been planning every detail of Project Liberty. They'd submitted a normal patch to Apple containing secret code. Once approved by Apple, they activated the hidden code with a hotfix. Lawyers on standby, videos pre-produced, PR campaigns locked and loaded. When Fortnite update 14.00 went live, players could suddenly buy V-Bucks directly from Epic, breaking their contract with Apple. 20% cheaper, no Apple fee. Apple's response was swift and predictable. Within hours, Fortnite vanished from iPhones worldwide, but Epic was ready. Just 40 minutes later, they filed a 60-page lawsuit. Within hours, Epic released 1980 Fortnite, a parody of Apple's own 1984 ad, pushing that Apple was the oppressive big brother they once rebelled against. Tim Sweeney, Epic's CEO and founder, was betting his company's reputation on exposing the 30% lie. The trial that followed changed everything. Not because Epic won, they mostly didn't, but because for the first time, we got to see the financial reality behind the platform walls. May 2021, Federal Court, Northern District of California. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers presiding. Epic's expert witness testified that Apple's payment system is technologically trivial. Any competent developer could replicate it in weeks. Yet Apple won 9 of 10 counts. The platform fee could stand. Epic owed Apple $3.6 million for breaking their contract. But on one count, Apple lost. Their anti-steering provisions, rules preventing developers from even mentioning other payment options, violated California's unfair competition law. That one crack in the wall would prove fatal. While Epic fought in American courts, 5,000 miles away, Japanese developers had been waging guerrilla warfare for a decade. The weapon of choice, serial codes. At first, most developers kept it simple. They'd distribute codes through their own websites or at gaming events. Then players would enter them into forms built directly into the games for premium items worth real money. August 2015, Monster Strike, developed by Japanese studio mrixrt, was making $600,000 daily using this system. Apple's response was immediate. Monster Strike vanished from the App Store until the codes were removed. The message was clear. We control everything on our platform. But Japanese developers are nothing if not creative. Apple had banned codes for premium items, but they couldn't ban all promotional codes entirely. So developers found the loopholes. Free login bonuses allowed. Promotional items with no cash value technically permitted. Limited time event rewards, gray area that Apple struggled to police. That's when Cygames, the studio behind Grand Blue Fantasy and also the currently viral horse game Uma Musume, turned evasion into an art form. They flooded the market with promotional codes that gave players incredibly valuable items, just not ones you could technically buy with money. Buy coffee at 7-Eleven? Promotional game code on your receipt. Watch their anime? Codes flash on screen for 3 seconds. Buy their manga? Exclusive promotional items inside. The items were technically free promotional materials, not purchasable goods. The message from every studio, mrixrt, Cygames, Cyber Agent, was clear. This tax is destroying our livelihoods, and we'll risk everything to escape it. But the real revolution was happening in China, where developers didn't fight the platform tax. They simply ignored it. WeChat does something radical. They let developers build games inside their messaging app. No downloads, no app store, no permission needed. Click a link in chat, you're playing. Want to pay? WeChat takes 5% for processing. That's right, 5, not 30.
Yeah, let me make it very clear, right? So this kind of like platform tax that these big platform providers do charge, it's a money printing business, right? So these guys are printing money. Every time somebody makes a purchase inside Fortnite or Call of Duty on a PlayStation, for instance, Sony gets 30% of that for doing quote unquote nothing. Of course, they're doing something, but they're not providing the game, they're not promoting the game, they just host it on their platform and handle payments, right? And maybe from time to time, promote the game on the App Store, right? It's a high margin business for the platform providers. This is why the platform providers are platform providers. Otherwise, they would cease to be platform providers and do something else, right? Because it's an extremely lucrative business if you have command over things like the platform tax, which is why Epic is investing the money that it's making from Fortnite into building a Steam competitor. Because even if, quote unquote, only 12% of a PC game sale from Epic, made on Epic goes to Epic, it's still a high margin business for them. And I think that if you have such a platform, and if you sit on such a platform, and if you can charge this kind of platform tax, you use everything in your power, like Apple and Google do on the litigation front, to keep that power as long as possible.
Jump. You probably never heard of it. Within 72 hours, 100 million people were playing. No marketing, no featuring, just friends sharing a link. The developer kept 95% of every purchase. In the West, they would have lost 30% to platforms, spent millions on marketing, and prayed for visibility. In China, they just made a game people wanted to share, and the players shared it. The numbers break Western minds. WeChat minigames generated $12 billion in 2023. After their 5% cut, developers kept $11.4 billion. If those same games existed in Apple's ecosystem, $3.6 billion would vanish. Poof, gone. That's $3.6 billion of creativity transformed into stock buybacks. But these aren't separate economies anymore, they're colliding. Boot up Genshin Impact. If you're in China, that character costs 40 yuan, about $5.50, through WeChat. If you're in America, that same character costs $10 through Apple. Same pixels, same game. Twice more expensive because you live in the wrong country. Players noticed, forums exploded, and the uncomfortable truth spread. You're not paying for better service. You're paying a geography fee. That 5% WeChat fee isn't magic. It's just what payment processing actually costs. This video is sponsored by Xsolla, but hold off on your sponsor block for a second because they told me something I've never heard from a sponsor before. They legitimately just want developers and players to know that alternatives exist. Think about that. A company so confident that once developers learn they can avoid the 30% fee, some will naturally choose their services. But even if developers choose a competitor, even if they build their own solution, Xsolla wins because the major platforms don't. Following recent US District Court rulings that forced both Apple and Google to allow external payment links in mobile games, Xsolla launched their Buy button. Developers can now embed direct payment links inside their iOS and Android games, leading to a secure checkout with Xsolla that charges just 5% instead of up to 30%. They process payments for games you've probably played. They handle Twitch payouts. They manage tax compliance in over 200 countries, fraud protection, currency conversion, all the stuff Apple and Google claim justifies 30%, except they do it for a fraction of that cost. But again, they specifically told me, we don't care if developers use competitors or build their own systems. We just want them to know they have options. We want players to understand why their games cost what they cost. We want everyone to realize that 30% was never necessary. That's not buy our thing, that's know your options. Not we're the best, but you deserve better than major app stores. So yeah, this video is sponsored by Xsolla, and I'm grateful for their support. But more importantly, I'm grateful they're part of the solution. One of many companies proving that payment processing doesn't need to cost up to 30%. It never did. If you want to learn about how developers can set up their own web shops, click the link in the description. Back to the resistance. Epic's lawsuit was a match that lit fires around the world. The European Union's Digital Markets Act forced Apple to allow alternative app stores entirely. South Korea passed laws requiring platform holders to accept alternative payments. Japan investigated anti-competitive practices, and the UK followed suit. Suddenly, Apple faced battles on every front. They weren't alone. Google faced its own reckoning alongside them. In December 2023, a jury found them guilty of maintaining an illegal monopoly with their Play Store. The walls were closing in. Then in 2025, Apple tried malicious compliance. They allowed external payment links but buried them under terrifying warning screens. This purchase will not be managed by Apple. Apple cannot ensure the security of this transaction. And they still charge 27% on external purchases. The judge had seen enough. She ruled Apple had willfully violated her order and came down hard. No more fees on external purchases, no more scare screens, no more games. Tim Sweeney tweeted, "The long national nightmare of the Apple tax is ended." Within days, Fortnite returned to iPhones. For the first time ever, players could buy V-Bucks without Apple taking a cut. After 5 years of war, Apple had won the battle that really mattered. The real victory wasn't in courts, it was watching what happened next. Within days, developers started escaping. Spotify added direct payment links. Tinder bypassed Apple entirely. Even tiny indie studios could set up alternative payments in hours. The results were immediate. Developers who switched saw their revenue jump 14 to 16% overnight. Same games, same products, and the same apps. Just no more middleman taking a cut. Some got creative. Minecraft kept selling on the App Store but offered better prices direct, let players choose convenience or savings. Genshin Impact put reminders on every loading screen. Save 25% buying directly from us. Everyone had learned from Discord's failure. Don't try to replace platforms, just offer players a better choice.
So I think the Apple versus Epic litigation has already changed the industry. I think that you already see ripple effects, not only in the US, but all in the US industry in terms of gaming, but also in the global gaming industry, right? So I think that Epic deliberately basically started this big war, maybe not to help the gaming industry, but to shake up the game industry. Maybe I'm giving this multi-billion-dollar company too much credit. You know, I'm not Epic's advocate, or like I don't have a mandate to speak for Epic. But I think that generally speaking, they did a good service, a valuable service for the game industry. Because I'm not sure about you, but I rather want to see the game developers capturing the revenue that they get from the users themselves, instead of sharing them with these trillion-dollar companies like Apple, or multi-trillion-dollar companies like Apple, right? And I have the hope that the reduction of the platform taxes, at least on the mobile platforms, but also partially on the PC platform with Epic right now, and maybe there will be some spillover effects in the future also to console, will actually benefit the developers to some extent, right? Especially in a transformational phase of the gaming industry where we are right now, right? And I think that in this kind of sense, Epic has been quote unquote helpful to kind of like break down the walls and break down the duopoly that, in my eyes, Apple and Google clearly have in the mobile sector.
The resistance had exposed something crucial. Platforms only had one real power: Not better security, not amazing features, just convenience, being the easiest path. But paths can change, and every developer who escaped proved the same thing. This whole system was just wealth extraction disguised as necessity. But why did it take a resistance in the first place? Why did the math break so badly that developers risked everything to escape? Every developer I've interviewed recently says the same thing, usually quietly, always off the record. We're all pretending this works. PlayStation 3 games cost about $20 million to make. PlayStation 4, $50 million. PlayStation 5, current AAA games are lucky to only cost $200 million. Battlefield 6 is estimated at $600 million. GTA 6 might cost $2 billion. Meanwhile, games cost $60 in 2005 and $80 today. Development costs increased 1,000%. Prices increased 33%. Now, add the 30% platform fee. Your $200 million game needs to generate $286 million just to break even, just to pay the bills, just to keep the lights on for your next project. That requires selling 4 million copies at full price. No Steam sales, no regional pricing, no discounts, ever. Know how many games sell 4 million copies? About 50 per year out of 50,000 released. But it gets worse. Nobody pays full price anymore. Between sales, bundles, and regional pricing, the average game sells for $35. Now you need 8 million sales. That's breakout hit territory just to break even. This cannot continue. Industry veterans know this.
Yes. So I think that when a company closes down, it's all about the financial performance. Usually, when it's not about some other personal issues or egos playing a factor, or certain corporate decisions that might be difficult to evaluate from the outside. But I think that the platform taxes are always a factor in these decisions, just because they eat into margins, right? And gaming as a business is all about margins, as other businesses are, right? And the less you have to pay in terms of platform taxes, the better it is for your business in terms of margins, right? And the higher your profit, of course, every year or every quarter, depending on the structure of your company, the higher the chances of survival, or your company just doing well enough to sustain itself over the long term. I think it's getting harder and harder, right? Everybody in the game industry is talking about their margins getting squeezed, about production costs going up, about marketing costs going up, about distribution being more and more difficult on any kind of platform that you can imagine. So you have to have, I think, an edge as a mid-sized developer more than ever nowadays, as a AA developer on console, for instance, right? So I think that the challenges are only getting more instead of less.
The math creates a death spiral. Every game needs to be a breakout hit just to survive. Innovation becomes too risky. Sequels become mandatory. Creative teams get replaced with focus groups and data analysts, and the games get worse. We're watching studios die one by one. Since 2023, we've lost over 40 studios that made games you played and loved and will never get sequels to. The 30% fee doesn't just take money, it creates margins so thin that even success becomes fatal. One game that doesn't exceed mysterious expectations, one quarter that doesn't hit unnamed targets, one executive who decides your studio doesn't fit the transition. Dead. The most damning evidence comes from Sony's own leaked documents. Spider-Man 2 cost $300 million to make. $300 million. That's triple what the first game cost. And despite being Sony's fastest selling exclusive, it hadn't broken even months after launch. $300 million for a game that's maybe 20% bigger than its predecessor. Where did that money go? Not to developers. Insomniac had massive layoffs anyway. Not to innovation, it's largely the same game with prettier graphics. Insomniac actually tried to push back. They knew they didn't need $300 million. They requested a smaller budget, knowing they could deliver what players wanted for far less. Sony forced them to spend it anyway. Corporate demanded the budget, then punished the studio when they couldn't recoup an investment they never wanted to make. It went to the bloat. The inefficiency, the corporate machine that turns every sequel into a financial nightmare. But here's the beautiful counterpoint. Stardew Valley, made by one person, Eric Barone, generated over $100 million in revenue, cost maybe $50,000 to make, and delivered exactly what players wanted. No bloat, no committees, no 30-person meetings about the color of a character's shoes. Schedule 1 just sold 8 million copies. Repo, Lethal Company, Among Us. This is the real revolution. Not in courtrooms, in bedrooms and basements where solo developers are eating AAA's lunch. Big studios can't adapt. They're locked into budgets, schedules, and platforms that require massive sales to justify their existence. Solo developers can pivot, iterate, and find their audience without needing to sell 4 million copies. Players are already rebelling. Nintendo announces Mario Kart at $80, the internet explodes. Borderlands 4 wants $280 for the complete edition? Players revolt. The rebellion is already in full swing in free-to-play. Players will spend hundreds on Fortnite skins, but refuse to pay $70 for a complete game. They've learned that ownership is meaningless when servers shut down and digital stores disappear. The breaking point isn't theoretical, it's mathematical. When you need 8 million sales to break even and only 50 games per year achieve that, the industry becomes a lottery where even winning tickets might not pay out. Recent data shows the average indie game sells 60,000 copies. The average AAA game sells around 1 million. Neither number works when you need 4 to 8 million just to survive.
Yeah, so generally speaking, I would say that on the mobile game side, and I'm speaking specifically about Asian developers and American developers, where I personally have the most experience working together with, mobile game developers in these regions have for the longest time been extremely dissatisfied, to say the least, with the 30% asked by Apple and by Google. Because the question always comes back to, what value do I get out of it? Right. And I would say, I cannot speak about for the entire global mobile gaming industry, right? But I would say there's probably a broad consensus across regions and across developers of every size that the 30% tax is just too high, right? And it's not sustainable and it's not justifiable by the platform providers, which is the reason why we have all of this litigation in the world. EU, UK as one block, South Korea, Japan as the other block, then the US as another block, right? All of these forces, right, from the governments, from the developer side, go basically against this 30% platform tax, especially on mobile.
So the industry doubled down on extraction. Call of Duty added progression systems to justify microtransactions. Fortnite makes billions from cosmetics. Genshin Impact extracts hundreds through gacha mechanics. These aren't better business models. They're desperate adaptations to broken math. Here's the truly absurd part. Microsoft owns Xbox. They also own studios like Bethesda and Activision. When those studios release games on Xbox, Microsoft could simply not charge themselves the 30% fee. But they do charge that 30%. Internal documents show Microsoft studios still have to hit profit targets that assume they're paying platform fees to themselves. It's corporate accounting theater. Studios get shut down for failing to be profitable when the only reason they failed was an imaginary fee to their own parent company. Tango Gameworks made Hi-Fi Rush. It was successful by any reasonable measure. but not successful enough to justify its existence in a system where every dollar earned gets artificially reduced by 30%, even when that 30% just moves from one Microsoft division to another. And Microsoft learned nothing from that tragedy. July 2025, Xbox reports record profits of $21 billion. 3 days later, Microsoft laid off 9,000 people and canceled multiple games. The absurdity defies comprehension. One of those canceled games, Blackbird, an MMORPG from ZeniMax Online Studios, aka Bethesda, the Elder Scroll guys. In March, Xbox head Phil Spencer was so absorbed playing their internal demo that studio executives had to pull the controller away from him so the meeting could continue. Leadership had nothing but praise for the project. 4 months later, they canceled it. 6 years of development gone. Think about that timeline. Spencer loved this game so much he couldn't put down the controller. Xbox just posted their most profitable year in history, and somehow that record success meant they had to destroy the very game their CEO couldn't stop playing. Their justification? Spencer sent a memo explaining that despite more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before, they needed to make, quote, tough decisions for enduring success. This is what happens when imaginary accounting makes record profits feel like failure. This is the corporate accounting theater in its purest form. Studios creating games executives love, generating billions in profit, and then getting destroyed by spreadsheets that treat platform fees as real costs instead of internal transfers. The middle class of gaming is extinct. This week, regardless of which week it is, another studio probably closed. Tomorrow, someone will do the math on their next game and realize they can't afford to make it. By next week, another tired manager will be told it's time for more Zoom layoffs, looking their coworkers and friends in the eye and being forced to let them go. I've showed you how we got here, 30%. A number so embedded in gaming, we forgot to question it. A fee that turns profits into losses, success into failure. $60 billion extracted from gaming every year. Not for innovation, not for infrastructure, for being the toll booth between developers and players. This isn't about destroying Steam or overthrowing platforms overnight. The truth is messier than that. Steam provides real value. Developers use it because players are there. Players are there because games are there. It's a loop that's incredibly hard to break. And maybe we don't want to break it completely. Maybe we just want it to be fair. Epic proved you can run a profitable store at 12%. Payment processors handle everything platforms do. Payment processing, taxes, fraud protection for 3 to 5%. The math is clear. The platform tax isn't necessary. It's just what they can get away with. Change is already happening. Airlines used to coordinate pricing until deregulation forced competition. Banking charged whatever they wanted until fintech offered better options. Gaming's moment is coming. And when a truly massive game succeeds outside the platform tax, publishers will follow. Imagine the day that a massive game like Call of Duty goes completely free to play, lands on PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam, and Epic for free, and then sells every single DLC, campaign, and skin through their own website. This industry moves in herds. You don't need to change your buying habits. You don't need to boycott anything. This isn't about consumer activism. It's about understanding what's happening. Every time a developer pays that fee, they have less money for their next game. Less money for salaries, less money for risks, less money for the creativity that made you love gaming in the first place. But at least now you know. When a game costs $80, you know where 24 of those dollars go. When a studio closes after making a successful game, you know why the math didn't work. When developers celebrate alternative payment options, you understand their relief. The platform fee was never necessary. It was just normalized. And the moment enough people realize that, developers, players, publishers, is the moment everything changes. For 20 years, the platform fee succeeded because it was invisible, hidden in the fine print. The alternatives exist. The developers are ready. The courts are ruling. The regulations are changing. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here. not everybody thinks it'll be an easy transformation.
I'm a little bit skeptical about the games becoming more creative because there's so much talent just leaving the industry. I'm a little bit worried about the quality of games in the future. I think that you will see more and more focus on monetization by the developers. You will see a lot more penny pinching. I think that you will see less bigger bets because the cost structures are not really adding up anymore, right? So I think that in terms of creativity, I think that we've been in a slump for a long time, right? I mean, I don't see, I cannot recall a string of incredibly creative games that we've had in certain years in the last, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. Of course, there's exceptions to this, right? So at the time of the recording, Donkey Kong Bonanza just came out, right? It's a masterpiece, right? But then there's other things like Death Stranding. I love that game, but does it really rewrite the rules? Is it really like a master class in creativity? It's a great video game, right? And I can recommend it to everybody who has a little bit of a slight interest in that game, but does it really rewrite the rules of creativity? I'm not really sure. I think that you will probably see more of a transformation of the game business on the business side, on the monetization side, on the financial side, than on the creative side. But this is just my own prediction for the next 5 years. I hope I'm wrong.
The platform fee was just what they could get away with while we weren't paying attention. This video was sponsored by Xsolla, who genuinely just want developers to know alternatives exist. Thanks to them and to my patrons who make these videos possible, and I'll see you on the next one.